China's military leadership is undergoing one of its most significant shakeups in decades. Over the weekend, Beijing confirmed that 2 of the country's most senior generals are now under investigation for what it described as serious violations of law.
中央政治局委员、中央军委副主席张又侠，中央军委委员、中央军委联合参谋部参谋长刘振立涉嫌严重违纪违法。经党中央研究，决定对张又侠、刘振立立案审查调查。
The announcement has sent shockwaves as Zhang was widely seen as one of Xi Jinping's closest and most trusted military figures. His removal means that the Central Military Commission is now effectively reduced to just 2 people, including Xi Jinping himself, raising deeper questions about power concentration, trust and control, and how high-risk decisions, including those related to the Taiwan Strait, will be made. Hello and welcome to Taiwan Talks. I'm Ethan Liu. To unpack all this, today I'm joined by Wang Hao, writer and international relations commentator, and Lai Yizhou, Prospect Foundation president, and Sha Ming join us from Honolulu, the United States, City University of New York political science professor. Welcome, all of you. 2 of you in the studio, and Dr. Xia joining us from your vacation. Thank you for taking the time. So, Dr. Wang, let me come to you first. China's anti-corruption campaign has been really intense, right, with nearly 1 million officials disciplined in 2025 alone. So what made this case, Zhang's case, so different that drew extraordinary attention?
First of all, Zhang Youxia is the most senior military officers being purged on the spot since Lin Biao. And the previous purge are the people who retired, who people are junior than him. He is the most senior. In fact, he is the most senior military officers currently in the Chinese military establishment. The second important point is his family, his father and himself. His family is very close to Xi Jinping's family. They have a family tradition and a very close relationship. And the third point that is he is actually very old. He is 75. He can be sent to retirement anytime. So why do you need to purge him publicly? You can actually ask him to resign, retire, quietly. So the fact he has to be purged so publicly and humiliated and arrested, that means this is a political crisis rather than just a personal crash.
But you're already using the word purge, so that's your definition, that's your view of this.
Well, I mean, it's definitely a political purge because not only the public announcement by Ministry of Defense, it's also from the editorial of the People's Liberation Army Daily, which clearly stated the reason why he is purged, and that these reasons are all political related.
Yizhou, building on what Dr. Wang has just said, he could just walk away quietly, right? So remove this person quietly. So why the leadership decided to make this case so public? What message is the leadership trying to send by doing so?
If you compare with the earlier removal of another CMC vice chairman like He Weidong and also the Miao Hua, both of them have been experiencing extended period of time of the investigation before the final announcement about their being announced to be investigated and then to remove them from the party. But the last time when Zhang Youxia was in the public appearances, it was on December 22nd last year. And then we are talking about the January the 24th, the announcement about the Zhang Youxia being purged due to a political reason, and have a very public announcement by the Ministry of National Defense. That means that the whole period about the Zhang Youxia publicly been announced that he's no longer with the PLA leadership. With the last appearances, it's just about a month. Very different from the case against He Weidong, another CMC vice chairman, and also the Miao Hua. So it was led to believe that this is this decision was made very sudden, and in a very short period of time. It seems that there's some certain urgency that Xi Jinping wants to make in order to make example for both Zhang Youxia and Liu Zhenli, who also a CMC member, but he's in charge of the general military affairs. Yeah.
So Zhang, you mentioned that this could be a sudden or urgent move, right? So what scenarios do you think the leadership is trying to avoid?
I cannot make the educated guess because there are so many rumors that it has been flying around. But if you look at the PLA dailies, the editorial charge against those two senior generals, it contains about 5 very serious violations. And the number 1, number 2 talks about how they violated trust from the party as well as the CMC. And then the second one is about how they seriously violated the CMC chairman responsible systems. So it seems to lead to that the both of this person could breach the kind of Xi Jinping, the personal leadership among the military, and so that result to their removal.
And to understand why Beijing is framing this so forcefully, we need to step back and look at the broader anti-corruption campaign now underway in China. This is not a new effort, but in recent months, the messaging has become sharper, more urgent, and probably more political.
纪检监察机关坚持以习近平新时代中国特色社会主义思想为指导，牢记嘱托，感恩奋进，强化政治监督，坚定不移推进反腐败斗争，深化整治群众身边不正之风和腐败问题。
So my next question is for Professor Xia. Anti-corruption has been the center of Xi Jinping's rule since he took power in 2012. But framing this problem as an existential threat, and 5 of the Central Military Commission's 7 members are now gone. So do you think all these developments suggest that the campaign has somehow evolved into a possible tool of political control?
When we talk about political threat, right, so we have to think about is a political threat to the communist system or to the Chinese polity or to Xi Jinping, his personal power. Clearly, when, as Professor Lai, and he mentions, when Zhang Youxia is accused of betraying either the chairman responsibility system or the party and all this, basically it means and he has some either disagreements or even challenge against Xi Jinping. So this is how, and I don't think this is a threat to the Communist Party or to the system itself, but it's an immediate threat to Xi Jinping. And also in terms of the anti-corruption campaign, and I was told last year, and in Beijing, someone got the information for last year alone, there were close to 100 generals. They were purged. So this is a continuation of the past pattern, because we look at after the 19th party tenure, Xiaopei, the vice chairman of the Central Inspection and Disciplinary Committee, and he released several numbers. And one number is under the 18th and the 19th two Congresses. There were more than 3.8 some million cases they were investigated, and there were 300 some million persons they were punished and persecuted and prosecuted, and also there are another some 4 million officials and they were investigated or punished by the party discipline or the government penalty, and then there are another 8 million people they were warned and orally, right, and they were dealt with. So if we put all this together, that means it will be 16 million people and involved. Of course, there were some overlapping, so it's very difficult to do the political calculus. But what I mean is, in China, this political cannibalism, or this we call it 绞肉机政治, right, meat grinder politics, is nothing new. And so I think and this makes the Chinese politics, right, the government officials, they have the highest crime rate. But also the Chinese officials, they have the highest, you see, and the chance to get caught among criminal groups. So I think this is part and part of Chinese politics.
Okay, so of all these millions of cases under investigation, I think one that drew the most scrutiny is the shakeup within the CMC itself, namely the Central Military Commission. So now let's look at how these shakeup unfolds. I think it began in 2023, shortly after the National People's Congress, when Defense Minister Li Shangfu disappeared and was later removed, followed in 2024 by Vice Chairman He Weidong and Political War Chief Miao Hua, and most recently, the investigations that we have just talked about, including Zhang Youxia and Liu Zhenli. So, Dr. Wang, even the most insiders cannot be immune from this, either how you put it, cannibalism or the shakeup within the CMC itself. So what do you think is the logic behind Xi Jinping or the leadership?
Well, this is quite common in the communist system. If you look at Stalin or Chairman Mao, whoever is his right-hand man or his left-hand man or who people surrounding him usually got purged very easily. And so the dictators normally distrust nobody, and anybody who remotely viewed by him as threatening to his security got to be purged. And so it is a quite common pattern, in fact, throughout the history of communism. If you read his speeches publicly, that he repeatedly mentioned about security, about political security. When he mentioned political security, he actually means his personal security. And that is most paramount in his mind. That is the importance, because he clearly aware that his position within the government, in the party or in the government or in the country is illegitimate. He never had personal charisma or personal appeal or personal contribution as Mao or Deng. He got his authoritarian positions through purge constantly. So it's different, you know. In Chairman Mao's case, he got his authority through successfully led the revolution and built the country. And Deng, through his successful open door policy and rebuild the country. But Xi hasn't really made any real contribution in terms of politically or economically. So his legitimacy is constantly under question, and he is aware of that. And because of that, he feels insecurity, because he feels legitimacy problem.
So building on what Professor Dr. Wang has just said, Li Zhong, maybe it's safe to say that the last time China saw the power so fully concentrated on one man, it was under Mao Zedong, who ruled until his death, right? So do you think this historical comparison can somehow explain what really is going on in China right now, or do you think it risks oversimplifying?
In terms of the power concentration, yes, Xi Jinping right now amassed a tremendous amount of power. Probably only Mao Zedong can be the right comparison with him. But in terms of the legitimacy, I think the Mao Zedong enjoyed much more legitimacy. Mao Zedong commands a kind of charisma among not just about Chinese people, but also the ruling elites. So Mao Zedong, when he decided to overturn against a certain collective decisions, no one can challenge Mao Zedong, and only the Mao Zedong can have his own say all the way. But Xi Jinping, he does not enjoy that kind of the charisma as well as the collective leadership. He has to focus on everyone needs to abide by the Xi Hexin, that is Xi Jinping as a core, as a central principles. He has to remind everyone again and again and again, which means that not a lot of people really abide by that. But also when we need to analyze a little bit further about the military purge. Since in year 2013, when Xi Jinping became the Secretary General of the CCP, because there's like two waves of the military purge. We calculate there from year 2013 all the way until now, documented, we have about 113 generals, including major generals that have been purged. But 59 of them were actually purged from the year 2013 to year 2017. And among the 59 of them, majority of them, they are in the lieutenant general and the major generals. For the senior general, like the generals, they are very few. Guo Boxiong, Xu Caihou, those are the leading figures. But when we talk about the next wave, that is starting from year 2023 all the way until today, the significance of it is that a huge number of the generals, that is there are 6 members of the CMC being purged, and there are also 11 generals outside of CMC, but they are the so-called 军区正职 in the military, in the theater command, and only the general rank. 11 of them being purged. So I will say that this time it's more about the senior people. It's not just about the people they are working together as the group that need to be taken out.
Okay.
So there's a very significant differences this time.
After news of Zhang Youxia's investigation broke, one response stood out. Drew Thompson, a former U.S. Defense Department official who once handled China, Taiwan, and Mongolia affairs, wrote an unusually personal post. Thompson admitted he was genuinely surprised by Zhang's detention and described him as different from most other PLA generals he had encountered. He also thinks Zhang was the one who could give Xi the best, most objective advice about PLA military capabilities, including its shortcomings and human cost of military conflict. So, Professor Xia, if that assessment is even partly true, what does Zhang's removal mean for the quality of information, or the morale, or the strength inside military as a whole?
I don't think at this moment, if Chinese government they lose 1 or 2 generals, that would be a big deal. Why? Because number one, in China, general secretary is the general of all generals. And so always the Chinese military is controlled by the party. So therefore, the authority and the institutional foundation, they are all from the party system. So I think this is most important. Number 2, because for Xi Jinping, if he is contemplating the most important achievement he wanted to accomplish under his tenure, in order to, get into lifelong service, it means go beyond 2027. So clearly Taiwan issue would be the most important game he wants to play, and he wants to score. Today we have young Turks. They are better educated. They are more sophisticated in info and high-tech warfare. And so when you have the top echelon, the space is being emptied. I'm sure it's going to even arouse a stronger ambition from the young generals. And so this is what I think is for the communist system, it's not a big deal. But of course, there is one big, in the long run, and one fatal damage to the system is the information leakage. The Soviet Union collapsed because of the information leakage. So the central government or the top leader, eventually, they were making decisions and not with inputs, but only with inputs. Therefore, the quality of information was damaged. Okay. So I think at this moment, Xi Jinping is living in his echo chamber, and he cannot understand, what real high quality, or he cannot get access to real and authentic high quality information inputs. Of course, this is going to be a systematic crisis to the system.
Okay, so Yizhong, what's your view in addition to what Professor Xia has just said? So the PLA is like a armed wing of the party, right, instead of a national military in a conventional sense. So when loyalty is more important than competence or professionalism, what do you think that poses the greatest weakness or danger?
Of course, the echo chamber, the people basically will reflect what the leadership want them to say. That will cloud the whole assessment about intelligence, about the reality, and also the military capability, as well as the competence that could also be clouded. That is, when your leaders is asking you to deliver something, even though you know your military just cannot deliver, you continue to tell the leaders that because this is what you wanted to hear, that you could implement a job. And then that many times will lead to the miscalculations, on the leader's part and the unspecified confidence about the job and that can be done. So that, yes, the increased danger across the Taiwan Strait, definitely that will be there. But I would say that the gray zone operations, that could pose the most dangerous development.
So, Dr. Wang, if this kind of logic of control and distrust extends from the military to the broader political elite or the same, what do you think that no one feels secure? What environment does that create for China?
Well, at the moment, in order for Xi Jinping to secure his personal safety, everybody else in China has to be insecure. And that results in all the officials, no matter how high or low they are, to lay down and do nothing. Because the danger is you don't know what you did would upset the boss. And whatever you say or whatever you do could upset the boss 1 minute or please him the other minute. So it creates an atmosphere that 躺平,
lying flat.
Yeah, lying flat is the best way for survival.
Do nothing.
Do nothing is the best way to survival.
That brings to my final question. There are two competing interpretations of what this purging or shakeup could really mean, right? One theory is that people think that internal turmoil will slow down their action for China to take military action against Taiwan, while others believe that it's the other way around. They're actually preparing for future action. So, Yizhong, what's your take on this?
I think it's both. First of all, definitely in the short term, due to the wipeout of the complete command and control leadership. So they need time to rebuild them. And those new leaders come in, they also need some time to be familiar with it. And one of the familiarity processes is that they'll tend to exercise some of the smaller and simplified tasks, just like what we observed in the last year, at the end of last year, about the military exercise against Taiwan. But they are also more aggressive in order to show that Xi Jinping, his personal anticipations. So it will be short, simplified, but also more aggressive. And so, yes, that's true, that for the short term about the military attack against Taiwan, I think that this wipeout of the military command and control leadership has pushed the time a little bit further. But for what will come after, it will be more intense and more dangerous and adventurism behavior by the young cohort of the military leadership.
Okay, so Professor Xia, do you think that tells us the limits of centralized control? In the meantime, Xi Jinping has to rely on generals to initiate future military action. But in the meantime, he trusts no generals or even people he personally promoted. So do you think that creates a dilemma for Xi Jinping?
I think it's concerning two policies. And one, of course, is the internal policy is the eventual reunification of China, Taiwan, and is going to be part of China. So that's one goal for us. And we look from outside, it's a global issue. But for China's side, and also based upon the global politics, right? For them, that's the internal issue. But the second thing is this is also related to another major policy, that is how U.S. and Russia and they would react. So I believe Zhang Youxia's purge and the shuffle of the military leadership is one, way for Xi Jinping to demonstrate that the party is going to control the gun, not the other way around. And so this is how under the Chinese government and under Xi Jinping, under Wang Hunin, they are not going to use the military as their primary instrument and to finish their goal. But actually, for the past more than a decade, you can find they have prepared all kinds of legislative vehicles there. And so they are going to use legal weapons. They're going to use economic and boycott. They're going to use a great united front strategy. So this is what I believe is going to accelerate China's move toward Taiwan. But this is a strategy will be more, from the party, not from the military. So we can return to what Clausewitz and once said, and the war is an extension of politics, not the other way around.
Okay, thank you all for being my guests today. We have to wrap it up there. If you like our show, please subscribe to our channel to be notified when we upload a new video of Taiwan Talks. I'll see you next time.